pod here on all the various channels of the interwebs. Joining you from the United States, I'm Raphael, joined again by the usual suspects from the other side of the Atlantic. Welcome this evening to Sam. Welcome back, Sam.
Hello, mate. I hope you are well.
I am well. And of course, joining him from the UK is Ryan. Welcome back, Ryan. We didn't have you in the last pod.
No, it's been a while. I'm glad to be back.
Awesome. As always, a lot to discuss, a lot of matches to digest. We're going to have to go back a little bit in time because we had our own podcast revamps. We're going to take you back a couple of weeks to a disappointing result, gentlemen, against Crystal Palace. I think a lot of people, coming out of the international break, a lot of people expected Arsenal would come out firing. It looked for a while initially like they would, welcoming Patrick Vieira and his crew back to the Emirates. He got a nice welcome, and then he was rather rude to his hosts. Palace overcame a 1-0 Arsenal, an early Arsenal advantage, pretty much swiped 2 goals, and of course Arsenal had to score on a Lacazette rebound at the death to claim a point. Sam, I guess this is inevitable. We know that Sambi Lokonga was pressed into service after Granit Xhaka's injury. Everybody's been pleased with him, but when you're relying this much on a young man, he had a crucial turnover. Some debate about whether he was fouled or not, but he was obviously not pleased with his performance. But is this just part of the process of having to force feed somebody that young into the starting lineup week after week after week into the Prem?
Yeah, totally. You've got to think about it. It's that he's come from the Belgian league. It's not exactly the quickest of leagues, and in that league, he would have had probably about another 2 seconds to decide what he wanted to do. It's a learning curve. It's an adaptation period for him as well, which I think a lot of people are forgetting. And he's going to have to speed up his thought process, and no doubt we'll come on to this a bit later, but he just needs to be a bit more decisive in that split second, know where he wants to go before the ball's arriving, kind of thing. But ultimately, it is what it is. There's a lot for the Crystal Palace player to do between then dispossessing and actually scoring. So I think as a whole, the team should have done a lot better on that goal, personally. But in regards to Lokonga, he came out and said that he was disappointed within his performance and that he will get better. And I've got absolutely no doubt that he will.
All right, Ryan, let's talk about the mindset of the club. Obviously, after results like this, the knee jerkers come out. Mikel Arteta caught his, and we expect that. But the club, he actually was a bit critical of his own club. I think this is one of those situations where suddenly this is the youngest club in the Prem, youngest starting lineup in the Prem, and we expect them, after overcoming that really slow start, having that really good September, to just really, it's almost like we expect them to click into that upper level and stay there. This is a learning process for them too, learning how to play with expectations of being winners, is it not?
Yeah, I think the major aspect of us being so young is they haven't found the level of consistency to perform at the high level every single game. And that will come with age, experience. Obviously, I think the oldest player in the team against Palace was Aubameyang, and then it was Partey, and the rest were 21 to 24. So to expect 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds to consistently perform at a very, very high level is quite unrealistic. But I was saying in our group chat the other day, the Mbappes, the Haalands, these sorts of players have really skewed the opinion of people because they're freaks of nature. They're so good that everyone expects these youngsters to be that good that quickly, and sometimes it doesn't work out like that. Everyone is different, and you see with Jamie Vardy, he peaked at 29.
Right.
So I think what Arsenal need is these players to keep going, keep performing, and they will click with the right level of consistency, and that's when Arsenal will benefit from them.
And Sam, this came to me when I was slow cooking something over the weekend, but is this also down to us, that we have these expectations that suddenly we have all these ingredients that we look back on it now, the club found some really good players. They weren't the big name players, but we look at Tavares, we look at White, we look at Lakanga, we look at players like that. They all came in, they're all playing a role very early, and we expect them all to be thrown into the oven, high heat, and a beautiful product's going to come out, this wonderful pizza after 10 minutes. This is something that's like a slow cook. The flavors are going to take hours, relatively speaking, to combine to give us that wonderful football dish. And is it down to us to be a little bit more patient with these guys?
Yeah, yes and no. I think many are, well, it comes from last season as well, to be perfectly honest. I think many look at Arsenal and go, top four. We need top four. Should be challenging. Top four. It's like, have you looked at our transition at all over the last couple of years? Because we've had a very, very high squad turnover. And with the new young players that have come in, there's adaptation periods that they need to go through. We saw with Tomiyasu struggled at Brighton. Was it a one-off? Who knows? Is it an adaptation game? 100%. Lukonga against Palace, adaptation game. That's one where they'll look at their performance, go, okay, I didn't do this well. I didn't do this for whatever reason. I'll do this better next time. So they'll pick out the weaknesses of the game and they'll learn and thrive from them. But yeah, ultimately, as a team, the team still needs to gel together as a whole. I'm sure the extra training will do that. But obviously, training will only go so far. They need that match experience with each other as well, to see who will pull each other through if need be, and who really drives the team. But what I'll also say is that the senior players need to step up and start guiding these young players and say, okay, game's not really going in the right direction. Let's drag them through this game, show that seniority. But in terms of fans, I think that some expectations need to be extremely tempered. But ultimately, I think we're looking for consistency, and if we can find that, we're on good course for top four. Well, not top
Right.
four, top four, top five.
And we're going to talk about that a lot more because what is possible, we'll get to that a little further in the pod. Ryan, they had a chance to bounce back from the disappointment, and they did. Came out against experience where the senior players did kind of make a point. Thomas Partey, obviously scoring his first goal from open play for Arsenal, long overdue. I think it's got to be a real tonic for his confidence. Aubameyang on a penalty, and I think it had to feel good for him getting the rebound. His initial shot was stopped by Emi Martinez. Chipping that one past him had to feel good. But assess the mindset. Look, Conga also came back and stepped forward. Much stronger performance from the unit as a whole. What stood out for you?
I think what stood out for me the most was the ferocity of our start. We was on their necks instantly, and I think the genius of Mikel Arteta realising they're playing with a back three and two midfielders and playing Lacazette instead of Odegaard really helped our team, because Lacazette would drop into the midfield and make a three-man midfield, but then he would go, but when we're on the attack he would be a second striker. So the back three are having to deal with a runner in behind in Aubameyang and having Lacazette there as the hold-up type striker, and I think that really suited the way we played, especially with Smith Rowe on the left and Saka on the right. But the fastness of our start really set the tone, and I think the atmosphere. I was saying to one of the guys I was with, I said that this was the best atmosphere I've experienced for a lesser game. usually when I go and the atmosphere is crackling for the Tottenhams, the Uniteds, the big games. But for a game on a Friday night against Aston Villa, that was one of the best atmospheres I've experienced personally. And I think that's what set the tone for the players. I think when the players hear that positive atmosphere, they hear you chanting for them, they want to work harder, they want to do more. And I think that really stood out for me. And Smith Rowe is unbelievable. He was just up and down, up and down. But for me, the standout performer in that game was Nuno Tavares. I think I said to my mate Roy, I said, Tierney must be worried. I don't think Tierney gets back in the side now for a little while.
You agree with that, Sam? That's a pretty bold statement. But Nuno helped himself. Let's put it that way. I don't think he.
Yeah, he come in, he was completely unfazed, and I think what helps him is that he can go either way when attacking. Defensively, he's pretty solid defensively as well, I find. But it's a nice problem to have, isn't it? Having two players in form that will have to battle it out on the training pitch. Reading an article this morning, I think it was, or might have been back end of yesterday, that Tierney's got a small injury again. If that is the case, then I wouldn't bother rushing him back because Tavares is more than able deputy, and if needs be, Maitland-Niles can be the fill-in.
But this again, let's just go back 12 months. When Tierney went down, whenever Tierney got a knock, we were all in a panic because there was no replacement, and Arteta had to do things like moving Cedric out there or going to back three or putting Xhaka out there, and the results were not good. And here again, as Ryan mentioned, is that we can exhale and say, okay, here's somebody who's got energy and who's got pace and who's got, as you said, versatility. And it's such a relief as fans. Just our emotional floor went from down here to being up here. I'm staying with you, Sam. Sorry. It should be clear.
Sorry. Yeah, 100%. And this is the thing, is that we've now got I wouldn't say complete squad, but it's more well-rounded, so that if players were to get injured or they're missing for whatever reason, illness or suspension or whatnot, we've got somebody else that steps in of equal or slightly lesser ability that's able to pick up the reins and essentially run with it so that the system doesn't have to change. Personnel instructions doesn't have to change. Other players don't have to adjust their game to cover weakness of somebody else. It's shaping up to be good, very good, in fact. And if the club back Mikel with his talent identification, then we're going to be laughing in probably about a year, 2 years' time, to be perfectly honest.
Ryan, let's stay in the back. We talked about Tavares. And obviously we were joking about this pre-match. We could make this, as I think Sam said, the Aaron Ramsdale appreciation pod, but we'll kind of park him to the side for a moment because we need to give some love to what's emerging as a very consistent now, certainly these last two matches, defensive pairing. We've got Gabriel, who's very steady to the point where we almost don't talk about him anymore because he's so steady, he's so clean. But Ben White made a big step up. Here's a guy, there were some question marks about him initially. Certainly this last week, I think has erased whatever doubts the fans may have had about his value and his place and his role.
Yeah, I think, I mentioned it before, I don't think people look at Ben White and don't think he's a very good player. I think they look at him as he's keeping certain players out of the team or the squad, so to speak. But he has been absolutely brilliant since he's come back from COVID, and he's showing what we spoke about in the summer, the ability to either play the pass or drive into the space. And he's doing it every game now, and he's committing defenders, he's committing midfielders. which leaves space open for our other players. Against Villa, he drove through the middle, and Smith Rowe had acres of space on the left. Tavares on the overlap had acres of space, and that sort of progression with the ball for us is going to be such a big asset for how we attack. And his partnership with Gabriel has been as well phenomenal. I watched him pocket Watkins and Ings by himself. He was insanely good, and they are striking up a very, very ferocious partnership, and they complement each other very, very well. I think I compared them two to Mertesacker and Koscielny. The way one goes in for the first attack, and the other one sweeps it up after.
Sam, we're still learning the capabilities. I mean, going back to Ben White, not just in this match, but in the Leeds match, just not only driving it forward, almost driving it from box to box. It's like he just feels very comfortable in that role. And we were talking in the last pod, you and I, about what Ramsdale brings with his long passes. And this is the I think the attacking dimensions of our back line are still kind of dribbling out, and it's very mouthwatering, at least to my eyes.
Yeah, it is, because as Ryan touched upon, it makes the opposition unsure of how to defend from the front against us, because if they were to squeeze up, we've got players like White, Gabriel, Ramsdale that's able to do big diagonal over the fullbacks' heads that our wingers can run onto, or if Ben White and Rob Holding doing their best Ben White impression comes strolling out of the centre of defence, you're going to commit their attackers. So their attackers aren't going to be in the open pockets of spaces. They're going to be chasing back. So essentially, you're taking away a weapon from the opposition's arsenal, and you're going to be going, okay, I've gone through your lines, chasing me. You're also putting their midfield on the back foot and turning round. So even if they were to make the challenge and try and counter, they haven't got anybody in the key positions to enable a counter attack. And I think if we're looking at it anyways, our defensive transitions are a hell of a lot better than what they have been in recent years.
Yeah, and staying with counterattack, Ryan, I'm going to take you back to Emile Smith Rowe and the third goal, which came on a counterattack, a beautiful counterattack, where he brings the ball up the left flank, cuts inside. He gets a little luck. He's got a deflection, but I think it's good for him. We've been talking about this for years, that the need, certainly since Aaron Ramsey was here, for an Arsenal midfielder with a real taste for goal. And scoring in this way just has to accelerate that process. This is exactly what we want to see. Him not shying away, not looking for the pass, saying, okay, I've got the space, I've got my man, I can turn him, I'm going for it.
Yeah, and his interview after the game, when he said a lot, Jamie Carragher said that he's probably the fastest player he's seen running with the ball. And I find it hard to disagree with that. But I want to say, massive shout out to Aubameyang. He has stepped up his link play massively, and Smith Rowe doesn't score that goal without Aubameyang's pass, flick around the corner. And we've never seen this from Aubameyang before. We've always seen him on the shoulder of the last defender running in behind, and now he's really linking the play for us.
Yeah,
and I think that's what's benefiting the likes of Saka, the likes of Smith Rowe. You see, they're getting into goal scoring positions now because Aubameyang is accommodating for them.
Yeah, we saw it in the Spurs game, right? That beautiful, that chip pass, the back heel pass.
Yeah.
That just, yeah. So, Sam, this is what we were talking about, and you were the one that mentioned it, I think 2 or 3 matches ago, that it's just a matter, again, of being patient and letting the pieces kind of cohere, and we're still not quite there, but it gets closer, and we see a goal here and a goal there. It seems like it still can get so much better.
Oh yeah, of course it can, because ultimately it's down to how the team gels together, and having that connection on the pitch. Go, okay, say Lukonga's going to be based there at the base. Saka's making his man come in, but then he's going to dart out wide, or Smith Rowe's going to drop in, bring their fullback. It's them sort of things, you know. And if they know where the person's going to be without having to think about it, it's going to make things a hell of a lot easier to implement their style of play, the patterns of play. And if you look at the past maps of what Arsenal are doing now, last year it was so heavily reliant down the left. Now it's probably a 50-50 split. And with that, you're not going to be able to have teams go, okay, they attack down the left, there's heavily set up down the left. So they can go either side. So they can't really expose us down one side. They have to try and find a defensive balance. And even if they do have a defensive balance, Arteta's got that tactical nous to say, okay, they've found this out. We'll make a few amendments, and that puts the opposition out of kilter. And it's always that thing is that when you're doing your tactical analysis about the other team, you need to know their weaknesses first and foremost. You know their strengths secondly, and now that Arteta's really got a team that's able to get forward in numbers and also come back on the defensive transition in numbers, it makes things a lot easier because we're not going to be exposed. You're not worrying about, okay, if I throw too many forward, are the defense going to be able to cope? Can they cope? Yes, they can, because you've got two athletic centre backs. You've got two very athletic fullbacks. You'd have Thomas Partey in front of them. Sambi's looking like he's going to turn into a Rolls Royce in a couple of years, and it's that type of player that we spoke about probably when we first started podcasting. You need that big athletic team to really get about the pitch and to implement this style of play. You need the athleticism, but you also need technicians, and I think the Villa match we found a really good combination of both.
All right, let's keep the good roll going. Yesterday, yes, it was yesterday. I can't lose track. So many matches compressed. Arsenal beats Leeds in League Cup, or was League Cup, Carabao Cup. Ryan, two of the holdovers. We see it kind of speaks to the roles of, as you said, Smith Rowe and Ben White, that they are the two from the weekend match or from the Friday match who were brought into this match. Everybody else was turned over, Leno and all the way down the line. We saw Martinelli, we saw Eddie Nketiah. Start with those two guys. What does that say about the manager's trust and expectations for White, and certainly for Smith Rowe, who we keep coming back to him? It seems like his stature grows by the week with this club.
Yeah, I think Smith Rowe has really taken on the number 10, like not just the shirt number, but the whole thing around that special number with Arsenal. I think he's taking it on, and that's pushing him up a level. Whereas you see with Ben White as well, I don't think he would have started if Pablo Mari was well, but but White and Smith Rowe are probably two of our most important players in terms of getting the ball forward and progressing into the opposition half. So I can see why they started, and they're probably critical to how Arteta wants to play.
All right. Sam, kind of again, two halves, kind of a ragged first half, 0-0. Some adjustments were made, and the manager talked about this, but it spoke to me how much better Arsenal played the second half, that even with the turned over second unit, there was such a greater level of composure of the players on the pitch. They weren't nervous. I'm used to a fan seeing these matches as they drag on. It's like, is this where the critical mistake comes? I don't feel that anymore. It seems like certainly the players don't.
Yeah, and I think that's partly to partly because they know the system now, and fully know the system. They know where they need to be. They know the danger areas. There's scenarios where there can be still individual mistakes being made, but I think with the way the team's set out, it kind of nullifies that to a certain extent. But um, yeah, I think there's a lot more confidence in the system from the players, and I think that's really showing right now.
All right, I'm going to stay with you, so we kind of flip it up. Looking at the table after this weekend, we know the disaster. We don't need to cap it the first 3 weeks, but here's Arsenal now. I think they're ninth. They're in a four-team glut at 14 points. They're only 1 point behind sixth place Spurs. They're only 3 points out of the top four. So they're looking at West Ham. Um, Kind of a two-parter. Do they need and can the squad as it's set up carry them into make up those 3 points by the time the January window opens? Is this let's start with this. Is this group good enough in your opinion? Is it they just keep growing, keep meshing, keep developing?
Yeah, I think that they are good enough to maybe get into or in and around that top four spot come January. But I think the key word that's been mentioned through this podcast many a time is consistency. They need to
Mm-hmm.
find that consistency, and if we are able to do so, then we're laughing. Um, but what I will also say, there will be up times where games don't go right or results won't go our way. We as fans shouldn't be jumping on the club going, "Oh, Arteta out, the club shit, blah blah blah, he shit." You know what I mean? It's these things happen with young players. We are a young team. I believe we're the youngest team in the league right now.
Yes, we are.
So I I want to say freak results, but some results against well drilled teams might not go our way. But we need to really push through that and support the players and the team to go, okay, wasn't the best of games, or okay, not the result we wanted. We'll get the next result and really push them through because we've got a real opportunity here with not having Europe, having the youngest squad in the league, and having a team that's hungry and wants to be successful to really push up this league after a bad start. So ultimately, I think yes, we can be there or thereabouts come January, and if we are, I pray to God that the higher ups don't look at that and go, "We're fine going through January," because we
We're going to
won't
talk.
be.
We're going to talk about that in a moment. But Ryan, I want to give you a whack at that. I'll let you answer the question Sam just did, and then maybe you can start the flip. But are they good enough, in your opinion, to get around top six, maybe challenge West Ham by the window? And if they are, is this a team, given their youth, that really deserves supplementation? Should the club be aggressive and look for that one, certainly one, but maybe two pieces that could really give them that support they need to keep them up there?
I think they're good enough. I think
And what they've shown in the window, they should be able to match. So what would you look for? What position, and maybe throw a name or two out there, who would benefit this club the most come the January window, if the opportunity is there?
I think that we certainly need a central midfielder. I I could possibly argue two central midfielders, dependent on Xhaka's recovery. Because if he has a setback, that's going to be a while.
True.
Um,
That
so
was a serious injury, right?
yeah. So I think for me, my dream centre midfielder come the January window would be Bruno Guimaraes. So I think that he would offer this team so much in terms of his passing range, his fight, his mobility.
And he
Um,
fits the age profile. He's 23 years old, right? He just kind of fits right
yeah,
in where with what they're doing, right?
indeed. Um, So I'd like him to come in. But there's a name that come out today, Dennis Zakaria.
Mm. And we've talked about him before a lot.
Yes, and with him being within, I think he's in his last 6 months of his contract, he'll be able to be available for peanuts as well. And if we're looking for a competitor for Partey on a week by week basis, there's your guy. A nice all rounded box to box midfielder, solid in a challenge, good passing, able to carry the ball up the pitch as well. Is everything we need and more.
All right, Ryan, you get your shot. You concur with midfield, and what about, would you look at anybody up top to supplement the attack? Because that does seem to be, we're hoping Smith Rowe continues. We're hoping Martinelli comes through. We're certainly hoping Saka starts pumping in goals. But it does seem this club needs more finish up top.
Yeah, I agree with Sam. I think central midfield is a massive. I wouldn't say problem, but it is a slight issue with Xhaka being injured, and I think Sambia is actually on 4 yellow cards, so he could be suspended if he gets another one. So, yeah, midfield. Obviously, we need a body in there. Sam's mentioned Dennis Zakaria already. Trying to think of anyone that we could possibly get other than Bruno G. Maybe try and look at Axel Witsel from Dortmund. He could be got on a cheap, maybe a loan. Settle for anything less than a starter or your top target. But if you can get a 6-month stopgap, then why not? And up front, again, we're going to be really short during the African Cup of Nations with Pepe and Aubameyang both going. Martinelli not looking too good at the minute. Eddie's probably going to be leaving. Balogun might go on loan, so be left with Lacazette as a striker. I'm trying to. There's not many we could go after as our top target in January. I don't think anyone would want to leave their clubs at the time. Maybe Calvert-Lewin if Everton are still struggling.
Would you go for a winger, given that Pepe's having some struggles again?
Yeah. Again, there's not many goal-scoring wingers I can think of that would become very cheap or available in January. Maybe Sterling. Maybe Sterling.
We've kicked around before. Sam, is there anybody on your wish list that we can kick around the probability or the possibility, but names you think like this person would really help if they were available with improving the attack?
Well, there was that winger that was knocking about in the Belgium league. What's his name? Noah Lang.
Oh, Lang.
Yeah.
Noah Lang, right.
From what I've seen of him, I like him. But then it throws up massive question marks about others in the team. So, yeah, I know we want competitors, but we also want players coming through. If he were to come in, then you're looking at Saka, Smith Rowe. Would he come in to be a substitute? Probably not. And you're looking about 30 million for him. So again, you're going to have to drop somebody for him. And I think we've found our balance in the wings right now, personally.
Okay. All right. Well, gentlemen, let's look forward to the next match, but let's summarize the next half dozen matches. So again, opportunity for points, opportunity to continue to a slow, steady rise through the table. Starts this weekend at King Power with Leicester City, then Watford, then they go to Anfield. I think everybody is kind of, a little trepidation about going and playing Liverpool given their form, but then Newcastle, struggling Man United, and then Everton, who's performed really well under Benitez. But let's look at the match right in front of us. Critical match. We were talking about Leicester City at the time. We were struggling, saying, well, Leicester's kind of stumbled out of the gate too. Ryan, they really have seemed to have found their form. They're like right cheek to jowl with Arsenal on the table. This is going to be kind of a Safi pool to see which one of them pulls closer to their expected position near the top six.
Yeah, and I think they're currently drawing with Brighton in the Carabao Cup, so that extra penalties for them as well, that could do us a favour, less recovery time. But yeah, they're going to be up there for sure. We just got to hope we're above them. I think we could probably take them at the weekend. I'm not too. I don't want to say that out loud. Actually, I'm not going to say that.
Okay.
But I don't want it to bite me in the arse in future episodes. But yeah, I'm quietly confident we can get a result.
Sam, what's size up Leicester City? What's they always present a challenge for Arsenal, but Arsenal did seem to kind of break through a little bit against them last year, right? When Arteta started, that was a club. Brendan Rodgers seemed to give Arsenal some difficulty, but not so much the last time out.
Yeah, I think it's a case that we need to nullify their midfield. Tielemans, get on him early doors, prevent him from spraying the ball, and just be smart with Vardy up top. And also, if they bring Patson Daka on, be smart with him also. But ultimately, I think that we're probably going to win 3-1.
Well, there you go. That's a bold prediction. Ryan, what's yours?
I'm going to go 2-0 for Arsenal.
2-0. I'll say 2-1. Kind of split the difference. Take one from one the other. But I do look at 3 points as well. Going forward, I mean, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but again, it does seem like there's an opportunity for this club. It seems to be in the right mindset. It's got the unbeaten streak. Obviously, going to Anfield is gonna again. We're kind of grit our teeth on that one, but this club does seem to do well, City accepted, against top competition under this manager. Sam?
Yeah. I think that now we've got a solid foundation. Arteta's able to build from the back and find that balance with the attacking. And against big teams, we know what they're like. Arteta really does do the homework on them, and they tend to play one way and one way only. So it's a case of just exploiting their weaknesses and expose our strengths to them. So it's interesting to say the least when we play a big team.
All right, so injury time of the pod. So let's wrap it up. We'll look for questions, and then we'll look for the positivity. Ryan, is there anything that concerns you after this last stretch of matches? You still look at it and say, "Boy, I really wish they would work on this," or I see them continuing to do this, and it gives me pause.
The thing that worries me a little bit is the lack of intensity sometimes. Like we saw it at a high level against Spurs for 70 minutes. Then we saw it at a really high level against Villa for 80 minutes. But against Palace, we were flat. I want to see that intensity at the same level every game. And yeah, that's my only worry, is that consistency in the intensity.
Sam, is there anything tactical or again, as Ryan said, just kind of developmental that you see that still needs work?
Yeah, as Ryan said, it's the consistency for me that needs working on, and I think if things aren't going our way, as I said a bit earlier, we need somebody to really step up and drag the team through. We haven't really got people that can drag this team through hard times, whereas top four clubs have them individuals to do so. So I think it's a combination between consistency and finding that and keeping that, and somebody having that determination to really step up and drag the team through.
All right, so next half dozen matches, we talked about it. Gabriel stepped forward. We know Ramsdale has really planted the flag. He's the keeper now. White's coming through. Partey really seems to be settling in. Um, what do you look for? What do you hope for as the next phase in development? Anybody in the starting 11? You know, we've talked about everybody does seem to have added something to their match. We were talking about Aubameyang with his hold up play, but Sam, we'll begin with you. Like, what are you looking for next? And I guess I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to say I want to see Thomas Partey score a goal from open play with his feet, because I think he scored one with his head, kind of a nicked it, but he's opened the bank account, and I just think if he could just calm down. That's a guy who's ready to kind of take a big step forward in spite of everything else he's already doing well.
Yeah, I think for me, I'd like to see Saka add goals to his game because he's getting in the positions. He's just been unlucky with certain things where he could have possibly had a touch, but instead he's going first time. But I think moving forward, Smith Rowe started to add the goals. If we can get Saka in on the joy as well, then we're golden.
Okay, Ryan, you get the final word. Who's going to be the surprise or the welcome advance, let's say, of the next half dozen matches? In your put your predictive hat on.
Gabriel Martinelli.
He's overdue, though. He's way overdue.
Yeah, I think his last few performances haven't been very good, but I've got a feeling once he gets a few minutes under his belt and string some games together, I think he'll be a huge asset, especially with games coming up thick and fast.
All right, and there you have it. You know, the latest edition of the Daily Gooner Pod. You know, good news, good developments to recap. You know, we would thank you all for joining us here. We hope you are here for the next one next week, and we will recap hopefully a 3 points coming back from Leicester City. For my colleagues, for Sam, for Ryan, I'm Raphael. I want to say thank you again and a good night.
Ramadan.
Okay.